Hello friends. Today I decided to touch on a rather unusual topic, in my opinion, taxation of income earned abroad. In many of my videos I have shown how much tax you would have to pay if you earned money in Montenegro, for example, as an individual. In some cases, an individual can also earn some money, for example, by renting out their property in Montenegro or as an entrepreneur, say, being the director of their own company. Now I want to talk about how much you have to pay here, whether you have to pay taxes at Aleph. You earn money abroad. In other words, you live in Montenegro, but you earn money outside the country. How should you handle this? Are such incomes subject to taxation or not? Let's get started. I have divided all possible types of income into three groups. The first group includes legal incomes that are subject to taxation in Montenegro. The most common examples that fall into this group are working for a foreign employer. Just don't confuse employment with providing business services. Freelancing is providing services. Essentially, it is running a business. But employment, that is, when you are officially on the staff of an employer, is something entirely different. This group specifically includes being on the staff of a foreign employer. When you are a permanent employee, and the employer pays certain taxes or contributions for you. In other words, when you are working for them, no one forbids you from working for a foreign employer, including working remotely. Secondly, this same group also includes renting out real estate. For example, if you came from Russia or Ukraine and you still have some property back home, you rent it out and receive some income from it. This also includes things like playing the stock market, royalties for writing a book, royalties for some kind of invention, and so on. A 15% tax is paid on all of these types of income. Yes, you earned or received this money in another country, but according to the law on personal income taxation, residents must pay 15% on foreign income, meaning it is subject to taxation. In practice, or in reality, I don't know anyone who has reported their foreign income and paid taxes on it. I also don't know anyone who has faced any consequences for what is essentially total tax evasion in this regard. In other words, at present, no one is really monitoring this, so to speak. Nevertheless, the law requires you to report such income and pay 15% profit tax, 15% in taxes. However, there are situations when countries have agreements to avoid double taxation. In this case, such an agreement exists between Montenegro and Russia. And if there is such an agreement between the country where you were born, where you receive income, to be precise, in Montenegro, you need to find the text of this agreement. In most cases, it is even available in your national language. Read it carefully. As a rule, these are very large, lengthy documents, often written in rather complex language. Nevertheless, you need to figure it out and see in which of the two countries you are required to pay taxes. That's it. So, in other words, according to such an agreement, you must pay income tax in one of these countries. And exactly which one you need to determine by reading the agreement. The second group includes legal income that is not subject to taxation in Montenegro. Well, the most well-known example is what is called here games, meaning income from games of chance. In other words, figuratively speaking, from gambling. So, if you went to a casino and won some amount of money, it doesn't matter whether the casino is in Montenegro or outside of Montenegro, this income is not subject to taxation. In other words, you just put it in your pocket and move on. Well, specifically, if we talk about those who come to live in Montenegro, there is a certain diaspora of poker players here who play poker professionally and make a living from it. I have several clients like that. And in fact, they can quite easily go and declare this income and even use that declaration somewhere later. Look guys, we have legitimate income. We earn this amount playing poker. At the same time, they don't pay a single penny in taxes on their winnings. And the third and final group I want to talk about is illegal entrepreneurship. Many people, it started back home, where many who are registered as freelancers don't pay any taxes. Or in Russia now, there's some kind of self-employed status. I don't really understand exactly what that is, because when I left my home country, it didn't exist yet, but now it does. From what I understand, as people say, they pay literally just a few kopecks there. There's no such thing here. When you go into freelancing here, you're essentially providing some kind of services. It doesn't matter if they're big or small, whether you work alone or have 50 people on your team, you're providing services. That's considered a business. In other words, an individual cannot provide business services. Only a company or a sole proprietor can provide business services. That's it. If you freelance as a private individual, then essentially that's illegal entrepreneurship. You're breaking the law. All such income must go through your company, and you have to pay the appropriate taxes. I won't go into detail about which ones right now, because recently, I don't remember the exact date, but about a month ago I released a very detailed video called Programmers in Montenegro, where all these aspects are covered from start to finish, everything you have to pay for. In short, it's a very thorough video that I recommend you watch. That's all I have for today. Thank you all for your attention. Goodbye, everyone.